Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Great to have you here. We are very, very honored today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Mr. Preetam Paregi, President of the FMS Forum, Mr. Raj Sharma, Vice President of the FMS Forum, Professor Anand, our former Dean, all the other former Deans of FMS who are kindly gracing today's occasion, my esteemed colleagues, the distinguished faculty we have at FMS, students, and of course, all the distinguished participants of in today's functions, the speakers, the panelists, the students. On behalf of FMS, I welcome you all to this very, very auspicious occasion, the FMS Founders Day celebrations. Ever since its foundation in 1954, FMS has led business and management education in India through achievement of excellence in teaching, research, mentoring, and engagement with industry and policy making. On this very auspicious occasion of the Founders Day, we in FMS today reaffirm our commitment to these founding values that have guided us so well in the past. FMS has also consistently been in the forefront of engaging with policy making at both the national and international levels. We serve as a think tank for the nation. And in this context, we've chosen the theme for this year's Founders Day as we have climate change and you. Nothing can be more important to deliberate upon at this juncture in time than climate change. Even though COVID has caused enormous disruption to our lives, this pales in comparison to the destruction that global warming poses in the future. Climate change is an existential threat to the very life on this planet. There are some policymakers who have argued and indeed continue to argue that this grave challenge can be met through technology. Clearly, technology will play a huge role in meeting this challenge, as Paregi Saab was just saying. But if there's any lesson that COVID has taught us, is we should not over-rely on technology. After all, we thought our medicine, we have the latest techniques, we can do laser surgery, we have eradicated so many of communicable diseases. And here comes a virus, and we have no technological answers at all. Sure, we have vaccines, but they only work in a partial way. Hence, when it comes to global warming, relying on technology alone would be dangerous. And that brings me to the address that I have prepared for today. And the topic, as you know, is reimagining the good life. Because clearly technology will not suffice. We'll have to find ways of changing lifestyles which are more sustainable in terms of consumption, which a planet can bear. This is also the topic for today's panel discussion with very, very stellar speakers who will debate technology versus sustainability. But I think with COVID, we need to pause and reflect. What exactly are we after? What will give us lasting joy? Is it a succession of fleeting sensory and egoic pleasures that is enough for humankind? Or can we make a distinction between sustainable long-term joy and mere sensory and egoic pleasures? John Kenneth Galbraith, in his book, which was written as early as 1958, called The Affluent Society, he pointed out that, look, there's a distinction between wants and needs. Needs are fairly limited. Needs are physiological. The basic human needs are for food, clothes, shelter, health, education. And these can be met fairly easily, given our technologies, given the resources of our planet. Food, clothes, shelter, roti, kapda, makan can be easily met. In fact, with food. I mean, it's sad. You take, a few things and your 2,500 calories are up. Anything beyond that, if you put on weight, then you have to go to the gym. Clothes. I'm wearing my, proudly wearing my FMS jacket today, and all of this winter, that has kept me warm. Frankly, I don't need anything else. One FMS jacket is good enough to last through winter and several winters. Health. If we eat right, if we exercise right, we should be fairly healthy. Most of our diseases today are affluence diseases because we don't exercise, we eat too much. So the point I'm making is with current technology and this bountiful earth, our basic physiological needs for food, clothes, shelter, health, education can be easily met. And if we get our distribution right, everybody can have access to these. There's no reason anybody should live in absolute poverty. The sad part is that after COVID, the number of people now in India who live in absolute poverty, right, who don't have enough nutrition, is now about 25%. Clearly, this need not be so. We basically need to get our act together and make sure basic needs are met of everyone. But most of us are more privileged. Most people who are listening to today's talk are far more privileged. It's not these physiological needs that are a problem. We essentially now live in the head. We don't live anymore through senses. We live through symbols. It's an imaginary world that we live in. Clothes. It's not just clothing you need to keep yourself warm. It's fashion clothing, which we want to wear once and then dump and not wear it for another party. We might want destination weddings for which we fly half the way, half the globe, and use floral decorations which last half a night. And I was recently invited, recent means before COVID, to a wedding where the gentleman had spent close to 25 lakhs on flowers alone, flowers which lasted just an evening. So there's clearly no end to want. Needs are limited. But wants which are symbolic, which are in the head, the want for status, the demand for showing off, the demand for being better than your neighbor in his eyes, which actually is a zero-sum game. It's a rat race of status. That is endless. Milan Kundera, who's my favorite novelist, he once said, the only failure there is in humans is failure of the imagination. The only failure there is the failure of the imagination. In other words, when it comes to technology, we made enough technology to keep us all satisfied. But what do we imagine the good life to be? When will we be happy? Will one luxury car be enough? Do we need a whole fleet of luxury cars and much more than what a neighbor possesses? So the real question is, can we think about this? If we live in the head, if it is symbols rather than just sensory pleasures which give us joy, it is status, it is esteem, and luxury consumption, which will become a symbol of all these things. Can we reimagine that? Is a reimagination possible where we live more simply, which our planet can bear? Because after all, it's not only a question of global warming. Our metals, our mineral resources, our oil, all that is in limited supply. Today, forests are being cut down at an unprecedented rate. And when forests go, animals go too. We are now eliminating animal species at a rate higher than any time in history. Clearly, these sentient beings have as much a right to a planet as we have. So it's a philosophical question. It's a think tank question. The FMS Forum is a think tank. That's its chief purpose. It consists of some of our very distinguished alumni who've done very well in the business world, but also in the world of policy making. And our distinguished faculty at FMS also in the various ways affect policy making in this land. So I think today, on this auspicious day of the FMS Founders Day, I think we all need to put our heads together and our imagination together. Can we imagine another way of living, which is more sustainable, simpler, happier, more egalitarian? So I really look forward to the panel discussion, to all our wonderful speakers who will give the plenary address and the vast memorial address. I've also looked forward to the Lifetime Achievement Award function, to excerpts from the Think debate. And lastly, I'd like to thank the FMS Forum, who worked so hard, not just Mr. Parigi and Mr. Sharma, but also all the other members of the executive who worked very, very hard throughout the last 6 months or so, or even longer, to bring this together. I'd also like to thank our compere, a very distinguished compere, Lincia, and all our sponsors for gracing this occasion. So all the very best, and may we have a great Founders Day, and everywhere, let us have a great Founders Day. Thank you.